Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay, thanks. Why don't we wait one more minute? I mean, we do have a quorum, I guess. Jay, Lovey, Rebecca, and I together would be a quorum, but let's wait another minute and see if Anita or Ronnie join us.
Scott, this is Randy. Before you start the meeting, I just wanted to see if you got my email earlier.
I did.
Okay.
I have it, and I'm prepared to share it with everybody. Or do you need to take off?
I'm going to just listen and as long as I can. But so if you could get the update, that would be great.
Okay, sure.
But I'll just be here listening. I'm not sure if I'll be able to answer questions or anything, but I at least wanted to listen as much as I could. Thank you for understanding.
Sure. Okay. Why don't we call the meeting to order? Let's do a roll call. Jason,
Here.
Lovey. Can you say that, Lovey? Can you use your audio? You're muted.
I know, it's just, I
Okay,
thought my hand would do.
Lovey's here. Okay, Rebecca,
I'm here.
Scott, I'm here. Ronnie is not here and Anita is not here. And we have Mary Ann and Brandy. Okay, so the meeting is called to order. Let's look at the agenda. Any oral communications? So this would be anything from any of us not on the agenda. That would be no. Okay, we can move on then to introductions. I guess I'd like to use the introduction slot to point out to everybody that Mary Ann, this is your last meeting with us. This is sad. That's sad. This is sad. You've been part of this group for a long, long time. When did you start working with sustainability?
2006.
Wow. Wow.
I was elected in 2005, and in 2006, Steve Tobin and I created an ad hoc committee. I think, Brandy, were you here when we had that task force?
It was, I think, my first day actually with the town, September 15th, 2008. I went to a climate protection task force meeting. So that eventually, my position was actually the first position I had with the town was recommended by that committee or task force. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so I have been with this committee in all its iterations since 2006. And so I really have a heavy heart tonight. I really do.
Yeah.
And this committee through the years has done so much good work. And I would say right now, you're going to have to really step up your game, because judging by that council meeting, when we had the second reading of the REACH codes, I'm not sure if any of you were there. There was a lot of pushback, which surprised me, because we were ready to adopt those REACH codes 2 years ago, but then COVID happened. There's a lot of fear and just confusion out there, mostly around electrification, particularly with homes that have 100 amp panels. And that's where Tom and Josie's work can really help you. And I will report on the next leg of that. I think you've really got to help with the electrification, even if it's just get your house ready for the water heaters, the heat pump water heaters, and heat pump heating systems when that dies in your home.
Yeah.
You're really going to have to educate people about that, and I think you're going to have to hit the water hard. gray water, recycle in all new homes, even rainwater capture. I realize that the way that we get our rain, it's not ideal, but I still can capture 30,000 gallons, and that helps me out. If I had more tanks, I could capture more water because it doesn't take a lot of rain to fill those tanks when it's coming off the roof.
Mhm.
So that I would ask you to be very firm about your mission, because I'm not certain that the new council is going to have the same attitude as the old council.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I just want to say, I mean, really on behalf of us in the committee, but really on behalf of everybody who's benefited from your work over all these years on sustainability, thank you. I mean, it's a really huge commitment that you made, and we really all appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's life after town council and sustainability?
You know,
You can join. You can join our committee now.
Yeah.
As a formal member.
Oh, you can join the committee. Oh.
Jason Equity said the same thing. I'm not sure. I'm actually, I would really love to work with the Poet Laureate program in the county. That interests me. I mean, there's just a lot of things that interest me. I'd also like to go back to writing, which I used to do. I need to downsize my house. That'll take me at least a year I'm sort of a hoarder. I have a lot of stuff. And also I have a house in the city where my son lives, and I really need to get working on that one because he's not doing much. So I'll figure it out, but I'll be around.
Yeah.
I will
Okay.
definitely check in with you guys because I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
Worried about,
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't want to go, it's too political. But
Yeah. Yeah. The last round of, I was talking to Jeff Alfs today about preparation of a piece to put out in PV Forum related to electrification. And so, yeah, we reflected on the back and forth that took, let's just call it the back and forth that took place on PV Forum, which
Was
we
concerning.
need to push back with facts and
Yes.
keep doing that.
Yes, absolutely.
Do facts actually have some kind of implication? Do they have results? Facts? Are they relevant?
Now,
You're
Rebecca,
facetious, right? Are you?
Relevant to some people, not to others.
Well, it's disappointing because in the past we really did lead in sustainability. And now, as I said, I don't know if I said it under my breath or at the last meeting, South San Francisco is ahead of us. So you've got a heavy lift here, people.
yeah. I would just note, Rebecca, I think you know this too, but Ronnie and Anita have joined us. So we're supposed to note in the minutes when others arrive. And I guess it was just a few minutes. after we
Seriously?
started. Yes, seriously.
My God. My God.
Rebecca, I got a lot of
7:02.
flack for the minutes I did when you weren't here, so yours better be flawless.
Oh my God.
All right, well, I guess we can move on to presentations. So we decided to slot Lovey's book report into the presentation slot. So Lovey, if you want to take maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes to tell us what you learned, that would be great.
Okay, can you all hear me? Okay,
Yep.
Yep.
okay, good. So this is the book. The one Brandy suggested or gave to me, it belongs to the town. I'm going to turn it back in tomorrow, so anybody else can read it. It's not that bad thick. It's called Fostering Sustainable Behavior by Doug Mackenzie Moore, and he's a former psychology professor from a university in Canada. The subtitle is indicative of the program he's devised. I think he is the author. I think he's the source. It's called an Introduction to Community-Based Social Marketing. Now, so This is far and away outside of my area of expertise of any kind, marketing, that is. And the book actually is like a professional, it's a handbook for professionals, for people whose job it is to devise programs, usually community, in government, sometimes businesses, anyway, the tool for change, what they want to do, or what the program proposes to do, is change people's behavior. That's hard. That's really hard, to change a significant number of people's behaviors to make an impact. So I'm going to try to keep my personal thoughts or biases out of this, but they'll probably creep in a little bit. The tool for change is a concept called social marketing, and the behaviors up for change are sustainable living habits. A key point in this is that behavior change, although it's extremely difficult, one of the most effective ways to change people's behavior is peer pressure at the community level. And so a lot of the studies, the book is full of, it has the program with the 7 steps to make a viable program, and a lot of blurbs on the back and frontispiece, are professionals who've used it and say that it's a terrific tool, guide. Anyway, the social marketing approach relies heavily on social psychology research and cites numerous examples of past successes and failures in attempts to elicit behavior changes. And then I actually wrote, reviewed and sent it to Scott. So, it's available if you want to read my review. I'm not going to add it to the book list because anyway. But the most distressing conclusion for me in this entire book was the fact that information-based programs are utter failures. You can provide up-to-date, granular information to people, and the success rate is below 10% in study after study after study. So that right away, that just, when I got to that point, I thought, why do I read further? Anyway, because that's the kind of campaign we do, is information based. We feel that our audience out there is smart and they want to make changes. And he says, that smart people who want to make changes still won't make the change. There's the huge activation energy to overcome. Anyway, so that's why he developed this program. I think this was the impetus for him to develop a different approach. So the first question out of his mouth was, why do so many campaigns fail to elicit meaningful change? So it's the book details very precisely and granularly how to design a program. First, you have to pick a credible behavior to change. So, and then you have to identify barriers that are going to be in the way of the change, and benefits that you could, hopefully exploit to have people, change their behavior. And then it goes on and on. They do focus studies and pilot programs. Like I said, this is for professionals. This is for big PG&E type of people, or cities. And that's the other thing. It's because one of the biggest motivators he thinks for social change, or for behavior change, I should say, not social change, behavior change, is peer pressure. You have to have people seeing other people doing the right behavior. And so there has to be examples, and they have to see it. That's one of the strongest motivators for people is my neighbor doing it? So you have to watch, and we're a kind of a spread out community. We don't have lots of local venues where people meet and you see a lot of other people. So right away, I'm not sure that there's that much in this program that we can exploit. There are some things, after having said that. So like I said, it's a very detailed program, and it takes a lot of time. You have to have a big staff to do this, a lot of research. If you want to design a program that he thinks, that supposedly will affect behavior change. And so you have to have a staff. I don't think we have a staff. So like I say, in my opinion, the usefulness of the social marketing approach is limited. It's mixed. I didn't say it was limited. So I'm just going to read some of the, most of the cited studies and described programs seem to be applicable to more populous urban areas where large numbers of people can adopt a behavior change that has a significant impact. Social diffusion. This several pages are devoted to social diffusion. Works best in situations where many people frequently see other people doing, riding the bicycle to work and that kind of thing. For instance, this does not work well where the behavior is invisible. And so I got thinking around here, you can tell when somebody's wasting water because you can see the runoff on the street. But how many people do you know have installed heat pumps or energy efficient appliances? The only people you go into their homes are your friends. And so,
Well, it seems like it would be great applicability for us to have any of us, for example, to write up an experience they've had with going electric for some particular thing. I could write about an induction stove. Jason, you could write about one of your things. This sort of thing, showing that people in town are making these changes and that it's beneficial. I think that would be helpful.
Yes, well, that's the key thing. You've got to see your neighbors doing it.
Mhm.
That is the strongest motivator for other people to do it. But anyway, back to the book and the details of it. We'd have to be focused. We'd have to come together if we really wanted to do this. We'd have to, decide on a behavior we'd like to change, focus on something, and do a lot of research. Anyway, the end result, I sort of used myself as a target audience when he was describing, how to change somebody's behavior. And I found that one of the strongest impacts for me was a program that was focused on a campaign to make people aware of a consumptive lifestyle, which we're, in America, we're all, and well, anyway, that's the whole point. And this campaign, all it took was 2 pictures. It pictured an American family with all of their stuff displayed on their front lawn. And the other picture was a family from a developing country in front of their house with all their stuff in front of their house. They didn't have a front lawn. right away, there was a difference. And it was stark. It was just like, we consume too much. So anyway, I think, Rebecca, exactly what you said. What we need is more personal,
Mhm.
like the couple that gave that talk about 100 amp service. I thought that was so great because they talked about people around here in the area, in homes like our homes, and what they had to do. That's what we need to do, I think, is make it more personal. This is what happened to me when I got my new water meter, which I haven't, of course, yet, but things like that is
Yeah.
what I think will be more useful for us than these programs. What you try to change. I mean, how many generations did it take for people to think smoking was bad? It took at least 2 or 3 generations for people not to light up anywhere. So anyway, that's the review.
A corollary of what Rebecca said was, having like instead of a garden tour, a tour of homes, not over the whole Bay Area, but just Portola Valley, let's go see Jay's setup and, make it really accessible and local. So that's another more effort. That takes more effort but a similar vein, I guess.
Well, that happened to me when I went to the Presbyterian Church Earth Day thing, April 1st, and I met Lowell. What's Lowell's last name?
Sears.
Lowell
Sears.
Sears. Yeah. And, I was just blown away by what this guy has done in his own home. It was the kind of thing I couldn't get enough of. He had a poster and that's what, somebody you can talk to one-to-one and say, well, where did you find the batteries and, all this kind of stuff. I mean, from me as a homeowner, the buck stops with me. I have to fix the leak. I have to find the whatever. I really want to know how I can do it or who do I contact.
Mhm.
That's the greatest help in the world, I think.
Yeah. Great. Anita, you have something?
Yeah, a couple things. Richard Crevel, who owns the Ace Hardware, when he built his house in the ranch, he installed all kinds of really good stuff in his house that I can't remember. But really, I don't think he's totally electric, but he has really good experience.
What's the name again? I didn't hear it.
Crevel. Richard, Crevelt. He's a co-owner of the Ace Hardware down at the.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He and
I
Ann
know him.
built a house in the ranch in Portola
Yeah.
Valley Ranch. Yeah. And some of us went over and he gave us a little tour and he's really happy to have people to give tours. I think we could benefit from some sort of a resource online that is easily accessible through the town website that has the names and contact information of people who are willing to be ambassadors. I know that the electrification tour that some of us took a couple months ago, that Pika, I think it was Pika coordinated. We went through electrified homes or partially electrified homes. No, I think they were all electrified homes in Palo Alto. They were kind of spread all over, but there were lots of them in Palo Alto, a couple in Woodside and so forth. As part of that tour, not only were those people really willing to talk about their experience, they're kind of evangelists, but also they identified ambassadors. And the ambassadors are kind of a nonprofit. There's a group, I'll get you the name, a group of people who serve as ambassadors for electrification, and they are willing for free to talk to people about not only their experience in helping other people, but evaluate homes for possibilities. Not every home can have solar, for instance. So what do you do if you aren't, mostly shaded? They'll talk to you about price points and things that were hard and things that were easy and things that didn't work right. So anyway, if we could have that kind of information richly on the website where people could just search for people to talk to, because I know I agree with the author. You really need to talk to somebody who's done it. And a very simple example was when we were collecting styrofoam at church, somebody came by from Woodside. They lived up Kings Mountain. They had a Lomi. They had bought, I don't know if you all are familiar with the Lomi composters. They're electric as big as a bread box composters, and they use heat and electricity to compost food scraps very quickly. And I've seen them online, but they're about $500. So do you really want to, unknown, do you want to just leap in and buy one? And with her telling me, I love mine. I bought one for my son. I needed to put it in the garage because it's a little noisy, generates some heat, but it's great. Just that information from a human being who's been through the process convinced me that as soon as it's possible to do it, we're going to get one. I mean, that's a very small example, but that's my point.
But you were 99% there,
True.
and if that person didn't get you there, you would have gotten there the next week anyway,
But it really, I could feel the impact it had on me with her telling me of her experience. Yeah, but you're right.
But Jason, you're right. We need to reach the people, not the people who want to do something, but the people who don't even think about wanting to do something. They're just, to make a significant impact, you have to get those people. And that's hard. It's really hard.
I want to say, I agree. I want to say a couple of things. The example you just gave about the person who built his house and built it electric, that's great. But the problem is you shouldn't build a brand new big house, right? That's the problem. Look at the carbon of building the big Portola Valley mansion. That's the behavior you need to change. Nobody cares if everything's electric if you just built a 6,000 square foot house. That's the problem. And that's the problem with this town, is that everyone here is so accomplished. No one thinks they need to take anyone's advice. Everyone thinks that they are entitled to whatever they want. And no one's out not no one, but the majority of people are not out saying, gosh, I wish I could get some advice from my neighbor. Most people don't even know their neighbors, right? And I think there's much more than a personal interaction when we're talking about people who already think they know everything, and you're talking about money, right? So this is not the same as, for example, accepting same-sex relationships, which has been shown time and time again to be related to having a personal connection to someone who's in a same-sex relationship, and therefore that leads you to be more accepting of it. This is that, plus now you have to pay, right? And even though most people in this town have enough money, nobody wants to pay. So I think you do not just need a personal connection, you need an emotional connection. And the emotional connection needs to be to somebody to whom this is very important, or it needs to be to the earth. And those are the connections I think that you need to make. If I can invite as many people over as I want to see my panel, but if they're not already 99% there or 90% there the way that you are and everyone on this call is, then no one's going to spend the $14,000 that we spent to put that thing in.
Well,
Just
yeah. All right, food for thought. I mean, this is really opportune timing, because now's about the time last year when we really went through our priorities for the committee. And so it's going to be important to refresh that. And also it will feed into a meeting in January with the town council, where we're supposed to give any guidance we have about priorities we think they should be looking at. So I was thinking in December we could take that up. We could go through the prioritization exercise we did last year, refresh that, but with some of these new thoughts in mind. So okay, well, let's see. We can move on, I guess.
That was a downer.
Yeah.
Not trying to be a downer, but I think that's I think that's true.
You didn't use your classic summary statement, which was we're screwed.
Yeah. Well, that's what I didn't say it quite like that.
You didn't say that, so
No,
yeah.
but I said that the message was we consume too much.
Did you see the article about the Oxfam study that showed that billionaires create 1 million times the greenhouse gases of an average person?
Yeah. Yep, there you go. Well, it relates to consumption.
I mean, an airplane, we all travel in airplanes and don't think anything of it. And, you know, well, anyway, it was a depressing read, to tell you the truth, a very depressing read. I'm glad to get rid of the book.
Airplanes, FYI, the best evidence suggests that airplanes mile per mile is less greenhouse gas than cars. Just so everybody knows, the issue is that you can airplane travel 12,000 miles in a weekend, which
Yeah.
you don't do in a car. And if you're affluent, you can do that twice a month, 3 times a month. But mile for mile, it's less than cars. And it's 1% to 3% of total greenhouse gas. And so people think they don't need to do anything. But if you're affluent, if you live in this town, it's probably 60 or 70% if you fly all the time. And so there's misinformation about that.
Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is approval of the minutes. There was a late input from Caroline Vertonghen, who sent something to the town related to comments she made at the last meeting about smart meters and I think her concerns about EMI, you know, emissions from them. So she sent us a document, which I guess Rebecca, we're going to append that to the minutes.
Yeah,
The minutes, should we append that to the minutes of this meeting or the last one?
was this the information she sent? I couldn't understand her message. Had she sent this
She did not send it.
previously?
She did not send it during she referenced it, I think, in the meeting.
Right, she
Spoke of it.
referenced it.
And then, so I think it's something that happened in our last meeting. So I guess we can append what she sent to the minutes of the last meeting and maybe put some summary statement in there that she raised concerns, and she's done that before along the same lines. And I guess
I think we just append her message and her attachment and
that's it. Yeah.
that's
Maybe
it.
her email. Okay, so I can do that. So except for that, are there any corrections to the minutes that people noted? If not, if they are sterling like always when Rebecca prepares them, then
Did anybody read them actually? Because I like leave out words and
I read them because I wasn't there, so I can't vote, but I thought they were excellent minutes.
all right, there's an independent vote of confidence. So can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I approve the minutes.
I
I move that we approve the minutes. And I also approve the minutes.
And what about a second?
I second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, none. Okay, great. We will continue on. Old business. So Brandy is on the phone, but I guess she would prefer, given her current situation, that we summarize what she had for tonight. I think, Marianne, you have some things on the smart meter. Do you want to just do your summary plus the smart meter first, and then I can share the other comments from Brandy?
Okay, so I was going to report out from the Resource Management Climate Protection County Committee I attended yesterday because Raphael Reyes from PCE gave a presentation on what they call their 2035 decarbonization feasibility plan. I got the slides and I sent them to Scott and Rebecca. And so you can distribute them to the committee. And it's got a lot of detail and a lot of technicality, but essentially they're talking about where they want to be in 2025, where they want to be in 2035 with regard to delivering 100% renewable energy each hour of the day for all their customers. And they talked about, he said that within our county, 19 agencies have adopted REACH codes. I'm glad to say that we're in that group. And they're also tracking people who are buying electric appliances and putting in EV charging through, I think, some of their programs. They also have a lot of incentives going for underserved communities, which is really great to know. But let me get to some stuff that it's a little more relevant for us. this is an interesting one to me. You know how the governor says that by 2035, we're not going to be selling any more gas-powered cars, correct?
Mhm.
He says that building on what we have, that he thinks that we will be 100% there by 2035. And that's based on how quickly it's starting to ramp up right now. But the EVs are not enough to close the gap of, how many GHGs we need to save and how much decarbonization we need to do. So that's why they're really pushing the electrification. And he had a lot of stats on the cost of a home upgrade and different, there are different decarb programs, which has to do with building electrification, reach codes, transportation electrifications, and this other one that I didn't write down, so you'll have to look at the actual slides. But what he talked a lot about, which was kind of interesting to me, was they are pushing electrification of 100 amp panel homes such that you don't have to upgrade your panel. And that is based not on the fact that it's expensive to upgrade the panel, but it is a pain in the ass to deal with PG&E. One of our committee members is a builder with, is it Regis Sayers? And he says that PG&E is totally hung up, huge building projects. So I mean, from the small to the large. And to me, that is a real problem. Like for instance, this house in the city that I have that's out in the avenues, and it's knob and tube, and I wanted to get rid of the knob and tube. I was told they have to pull in a line, PG&E has to pull in the line, and it affects the whole block, and it's just impossible to do. And I told my son, okay, when I'm off the council, I know how to do this. I will start showing up at the Board of Supervisors meetings, and I know who to scream at to try to get the wheels moving. But we shouldn't be having to do this, right? Even in Portola Valley, there's stories of people who can't get their solar connected because the transformers have to be replaced. So that's a real point of frustration, which is why PG&E is pushing everything you can possibly do on your existing panel. And the other,
I want to just say one quick thing is that another big thing there is that ideally we stop using more electricity. Of course, we have to use more, but if you don't upgrade the panel, then you use less electricity. You make do with what you have. So we have a 125 here and we're able to figure it out. And so if we can encourage people to not put in a 400 amp panel, then we're just using less.
yeah, there you are, the small is beautiful guy, Jason. And so this was a perfect segue into the next speaker, and I'll come back to Bosca, which was Josie and Tom, although Tom was the only one who spoke, talking about their work doing the residential case studies. And they came and presented to you guys.
Mhm.
And I need to get his slides because it's unbelievable all the data he has. Again, these were 10 case studies for 10 different homes in the county. A really small home, medium home, large home. And they go through each home and you can see exactly what it took to, well, they didn't do the complete electrification, but what it would take. So that I need to get to you. And so there was questions from the board members who said, how does the average person do this? And he started listing things like SB 68, which Becker is working on now. Menlo Spark. Menlo Spark is the group in Menlo Park that's doing so much work on this front. They're writing guides. Josie is developing an app. And then there's something called The Switch Is On that has a list of contractors that do this work. That's another problem. Not all the contractors do it. So I need to get you those slides because I think that is really going to be key to you guys being able to work with the community on this problem. Bosca is the Bay Area Water, whatever, agency. And just a reminder, the Bosque territory is not just in San Mateo County. They also include some cities in Santa Clara County and Alameda County. So Tom Francis from Bosque gave the water report. October, we started our new water season. As you know, we're still in a drought, but we have good storage in all our reservoirs. That's the Hetch Hetchy system, except for the water bank. The SFPUC still has their voluntary 11% rationing goal out there, and that's not too hard to do when it's, wet and cold or cold. Now, we did get a little rain, and the rain added to the soil moisture, but we didn't get a lot of runoff. So we need more rain and more cold weather, but at least the soil is wet, which will help keep the runoff, which will help with the runoff in the future. Reservoirs statewide are below average. As I said, the Tuolumne system is doing well. We got 4 inches of rain up country, a little more that's normal for November. We didn't get anything in October. So we're a little higher than normal on the graph. Uncertain what the year is going to be. There is a La Nina, but they don't even seem to be able to predict that anymore. And in the Bay Area, same, a little bit better than this year in November, but no idea what the future is. The conservation, we're doing really well. We're tracking close to 2015, which was the last drought. So people are conserving.
And Marianne, that's for what geography? The whole Bay Area or?
San Mateo County, some of Santa Clara County, and some of Alameda County. Well, in the whole SFPUC area.
Mhm.
And then they're doing this reliability roundtable series. And they did 3 workshops, and the last workshop was about One Water projects, which is the thing that I'm most interested in. One Water is like all water. I mean, not like, for instance, our water agency, One Shoreline, which we started in, I think it was 2018, just does sea level rise, stormwater, flooding. And the reason we don't do more is because at those initial meetings and negotiations, Bosque, the ED of Bosque, was so territorial, she would not allow us to even consider doing groundwater or any of the water recycling. So the One Water would be all of it together. So in this workshop, they looked into what different jurisdictions within the Bosque area are doing, and where the money is, grant funding, where are the opportunities for regional collaboration. And they kind of came up with some findings that, for instance, of the projects that are either in concept, in the planning stage, or in progress, 29% are about recycled water, 24% are groundwater extraction, which I guess that's wells. I don't know what that is. 13% are stormwater. Then there was like policy and other. But if all this happens, we would be saving 17 to 33 million gallons of water a day in this geographic area, which would be a lot of water. So there is a lot of opportunity out there. And within San Mateo County, there are a number of projects going on. And there are projects in San Jose, Alameda County, and San Francisco. But again, there's no like one central place where you can find out exactly who's doing what. And that's what I think we need to move towards. What else was there? Oh, Peter Dreckmeyer. I don't know if you know Peter. He's the ED of Tuolumne River Trust, or actually he's not the ED. I think I don't know what his title is, but he's out front and a huge advocate. And he was the mayor of Palo Alto at one point. He said that they have good news. If we have an average water year in this water year we're in now, that the full SFPUC system, the Hetch Hetchy Tuolumne, will fill, and we will be in much better shape for the future. And that means they don't have to take water out of the Tuolumne for the fish. So we'll see. So we hope for an average year, just average. Okay, that was all that stuff. And now I'll do the we met with Cal Water, and so Brandy doesn't want to talk about this. She wants me to do it. Okay, remember the flume issue and the AMI, the smart water meters? Well, they worked it out, thanks to Rebecca. And now, if you get a smart water meter, AMI, you will be able to get readings 4 times a day during the week and once a day on the weekends. If you have a flume and you don't want the new smart water meter, you can keep it. If you're willing to give it up, they will give you $50. They are going to send a letter in advance before they install, because I know they went ahead and did some installations and people didn't even know what they were doing. They're going to send the letter. They're going to do a door hanger the day before, and they're going to do a door hanger the day after. So I think this is a much better result. And I know Rebecca would like better, but this is how you start. Next time you can try to work with Badger, that's the company, and Cal Water to maybe get 2 readings a day on the weekend. And then maybe you can get 4 readings a day on the weekend, and then maybe you can get 5 readings a day on the week. I mean, this is how you do it. It took us, what, 8 years to even get this damn thing to be installed. So it's always the long game here. But I think this is a great result. And thank you, Rebecca, for having a little fit. That was really, really helpful. I think that's it. Are you going to do the rest of the Brandy stuff?
Yeah, I was going to share my screen and then,
A quick question for Mary Ann about that. So if you have a flume, they won't change it out, but what if you don't want the smart meter? Will you be given that option?
I imagine you would, because they will send a letter. And so if you, I mean, I can think of one person who doesn't want it.
Exactly.
You know, actually, let me think about that. Well, if they're willing to let the flume people keep their flumes, that means they have to drive out to the house, as you know,
Yeah.
which is not convenient. So, you know, we better, Brandy, do you know the answer to that question? We didn't really, I don't know that we even thought about that.
I think I have like this vague memory of her addressing it, but I will follow up with her. I'm following up with her to get all of the outreach materials so that we can develop a web page and start letting folks know about it in the town newsletter, and through, you know, our news items. But we'll have to ask Dawn that question specifically.
And the way they're going to do this is if they come to your house and you have a flume, they're just going to skip you, and then they'll come back later and talk to you about, do you want to keep your flume, or are you willing to give it up?
Yep, exactly.
and I'm just curious, the fact that they're able to do 4 readings per day with, they presumably were always able to do that. And it was just a question of technically, I mean,
It uses the battery. It uses the battery. The system is set up
Oh.
with you can't change out the battery,
I
which is
see.
of course stupid, but that's the way all these electronic things, these companies put their things, you see it in medical devices, you see it in that whatever. So anyway,
Can't change the battery on the smart meter?
no, so that's why you have to change out the whole thing. So it's set to last for 10 years.
So if you do more readings, you basically broadcast more Wi-Fi, which means the thing it
You
dies
use the battery
faster.
more, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So but they're willing to make that compromise, and okay, well, that's good.
Well, Badger set it up. That's the Badger standard is 4 times a day during the week and 1 time a day during the weekends, which we all know we don't have leaks on Saturdays and Sundays. But anyway, so that's the Badger thing. And Cal Water was trying to pull fast one by sticking it to 1 a day, period. So at least we get 4 times a day, which is so huge. So huge. I mean, right. I mean, to be honest, this whole thing is fantastic, because the reality is right now, people who don't have a smart meter, who don't have a flume, they get notified after their bill that they have. That's when they first notice that they have a problem, is when Cal Water comes out and reads their meter a month later, and you could have been having a massive leak for a month underground that you didn't even know about. So
Yeah.
getting alerted within, 4 hours I mean, within 6 hours or so is amazing.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
both of us have experienced that, not knowing that we had a leak until much later.
Yeah. We have a question or comment from Dave Cardinal. Dave, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. First a comment. I think this is great. We love our flume and we don't want to get rid of it. So I'm glad that that's been accommodated. Also, I think more than the battery, the issue is the Badger doesn't use Wi-Fi in this case, it uses cellular.
Hmm,
So they pay for the cellular.
hmm,
So every time they have to send data, somebody pays a penny or God knows what. And I think that's one reason why they don't want to send any more than they have to,
Hmm.
independent of the battery life. It's just a cost issue on the service. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so I was gonna just put up the other updates from Brandy and so we'll walk through them. So climate action plan, can people see this? Yes. Climate action plan, continuing to work on developing the project and outreach plan. Going to begin the initiative with launch at town council meeting in February, and then after that engage the sustainability committee and the wider community. They're continuing to work with the county consultant to understand the forecasting tool and quantifying existing initiatives. Brandy, I would just comment that I sent you a copy of the Woodside Climate Action Plan, which I assume you already had. But we have this exchange meeting, as you're aware, with the our counterparts in Woodside, and they're really interested in the climate action plan and in helping us in taking a look at what we prepare, et cetera. So just to be aware that connection is made, and they're really interested.
Thank you for that, Scott.
Yeah. On SB 1383, that's the state's climate pollutant reduction strategy, targets organic waste disposal and surplus food. Brandy's continuing to work with the town attorney, the county, and Cal Recycle to understand implementation and compliance. Also working with the town attorney and Greenways to develop an outreach plan for the requirements that will go into effect in July 2023. For the green building amendments and electrification of existing buildings, which was such a hot topic on PV Forum, the town council approved amendments as outlined at the last sustainability committee meeting, with provisions to allow projects approved prior to January 1st, 2023 to follow the existing requirements. Brandy and the building official working with the planning staff are going to be developing an FAQ, overview and additional materials to assist with outreach and implementation. And the materials will be posted to the town website once developed. Also, they're developing outreach materials and a web page on rebates and opportunities for electrification.
So was there something not passed at that meeting? Marianne, you had made a reference to saying that you didn't pass something, or?
No, nothing wasn't passed that in the amendments.
Okay.
No,
Well,
it was just, it all passed. They just added that provision to allow projects that were already in ASCC or planning commission, already had ASCC or planning commission approvals to stay with the existing requirements.
And I think we also had a provision, there is an exception in there. And we were going to use that exception for people who might sort of be in process. Isn't that true, Brandy?
No, I think they just decided to make it more clean. So it wouldn't be, up to the planning director to just do that cutoff date of January 1st, rather than have an exception.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was bounced around back and forth. But Scott, if it's okay, I just wanted to say thank you for doing my update. Marianne, I saw the same presentation I think that you saw with Tom and Josie's work at my RICAPS meeting.
Yes.
And it was presented so quickly. But it would be wonderful to have that record himself giving that presentation kind of more methodically, and record it so that, people could understand it better, because it went kind of quickly, even for me, where I couldn't grasp exactly how they were managing the loads to use the 100 amp panel. But yeah, that was a fascinating presentation on the case studies.
Well, I'm getting the slide. Jim said he's going to get it tomorrow. And you could perhaps, after studying it, figure out your questions and invite him back next year.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I
Maybe
think it's
this
going to be
time-
really important.
Maybe this time more people will attend.
Yeah, well, it might be that we can have it outside, have like a special meeting like they're doing with Steve Levin's work.
Mhm.
I also wanted to mention one thing about the book review that Lovey gave. I had used that process years and years ago with, I don't know if you remember, Marianne, but with the home energy contest, we actually did
Yeah.
focus groups, and that program, it was basically an electronic home energy audit. That program had persistence that was incredible for that type of program. I think it was like still like 40% savings over 10 years or something. It was amazing how much persistence that program had. But there is a conference, I've mentioned it before, every year. It flips back and forth between Washington, DC and Sacramento. I think this year it's right around November, early December, called the Behavior and Energy and Climate Change Conference. And it's an academic conference. There's I forget the name of the area at Stanford that participates in it, but it's basically an academic conference where they apply this method to different programs across the country. And it, obviously I'm not able to go this year, but it would be interesting to study the work that they've done with smart water meters and
Yeah.
behavioral programs to
Mm.
see what we could use there. But that, if anyone has the time and or money, Marianne and I have both been to that conference several times, and it's fascinating and it's really fun
Mm.
to nerd out and talk to people about all this stuff.
And when we were in Washington, DC, I remember, I don't know when that was, like 2010 or something, Brandy. But anyway, I mean,
I
we
don't-
were known for our town center building, which was the first LEED Platinum municipal building in the country. We used to be leaders here, people. You've got to get us back up there.
That's amazing. That was the first lead certified.
Platinum municipal building in the
Really?
country.
Really?
That was a
Wow.
little controversial. I mean, I was on the council. That was not a 5-0 to do that. It
Mhm.
was a 3-2.
Wow.
There's a lot of history here in sustainability that most people don't know about. And Brandy and I were there, right, Brandy?
Yes, yep. And it continues on. I mean, it continues on. I think there's still hopefully space for this work. We'll see.
Okay, and then finally, I'm not going to show it because it's just a short one. The disposable foodware ordinance. Brandy is continuing outreach to the in businesses that would be impacted by that. So
Correct.
anything
And
else?
just a clarification, there are already impacted businesses with this state ordinance. You might notice, like if you go get food out to eat, that you're not automatically provided with utensils at some places and
Mhm.
single serving items. So the county ordinance is a little bit stricter than the state ordinance.
Yeah. So Brandy, is it your notion that we basically would preserve these items on each agenda going forward so that if there are developments, you can speak to them? Is that the right approach?
Yes, and it's really, as I mentioned in my email last week, it's in response to some of the feedback that we got at the council meeting on making the council agenda items more clear so that folks knew what was up for discussion. And so in that same spirit, we wanted to include, more descriptive items for my updates so that folks had the opportunity to kind of hear about them before they go to the council.
Yeah, good.
Scott, can
Okay.
you email me those notes from Brandy? So I can just add them into the
Yes,
the
I will do that.
minute.
Yes, I will. Certainly will do
Thanks.
that. Yeah. Okay, next up is the report on the meeting that took place last night between 3 Portola Valley committees and the Woodside counterpart. So this was Nature and Science, Conservation and Sustainability on the PV side, and then their Sustainability Committee in Woodside. Jay and I attended, and I don't know, Jay, would you be game to just summarize what happened?
Sure. I thought it was great. I thought it was, I guess I was expecting to hear them doing the exact same things, but just the Woodside version, but they're doing very complementary things that are different. Some of them are the same. They have a program to eliminate pesticides that they're very interested in doing and expanding to Portola Valley. They seem to have a lot of interesting programs that seem to be engaging. Scott, help me. I can't really name them right now, but I thought there was a lot of creativity there, just as I'm sure they thought from us that it wasn't just a repetition of the same things that we've done. So I thought there's a lot of room to collaborate and mimic their programs here. We talked about sharing. So if we want to have an annual or semi-annual thing, we can do an event here, an event there, alternate. There was a discussion of returning Earth Day. I haven't been here for this large Earth Day celebration, but there was talk of returning that and maybe sharing that between the towns.
Yeah, so Brandy, that's the genesis of the request from Judy Murphy. And I mean, it was a joint discussion with Woodside that led to it's a request of us to Portola Valley, but they are also going to ask of the Woodside Town Council and staff if they would be supportive of doing Earth Day again. So it would be both towns in concert doing it.
Is this a new committee now over at Woodside? Because their original sustainability committee had imploded, so.
Yes, it must be a new committee. And what I expressed to Scott in my email is that I was surprised to hear that because, sustainability hadn't really thought that the Earth Day fair was kind of played out. And I mean, the thing, it really, as Judy kind of alluded to in her email, asking Jeremy if staff resources could be allocated to it, that's going to be up to him. But it's going to, I mean, it's a lot of work when it was just, I mean, it was basically me doing it when it was the years in Portola Valley, and then when Woodside would do it, their committee would do it. So that's going to be a Jeremy decision, I think.
And I counted the number of visitors we had to the sustainability booth at the picnic, and we had fewer than 15 people stop by.
It's my personal opinion. This is totally my opinion, but I think that the time and effort would be better spent on doing the kind of movie series that Marianne and I did before. I think you'd engage a wider audience in that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good feedback.
I'm going to the Wild and Scenic Film Festival in February.
Oh,
That's where you can see, that's where Brandy and I found films for the series.
Where is that?
Nevada City. It's really
That
nice.
is a very cool event too. Yeah.
It's really nice. Yeah. So
Sorry,
if you want to do a film series, I'll work on it as just a person on the planet living.
really? Okay.
Earth Day is also a little like, it started, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and it was like a little trendy and trying to get awareness out. But now I feel like it's kind of like Mother's Day. Like you should probably be nice to your mom every day, right? And not just be nice to her this one day. And in some ways, I think a big celebration of Earth Day reinforces the idea that climate action is a trend and something that you can just kind of do once in a while. And of course, there's educational aspects, but I think there's it can make it less of an everyday thing if you emphasize that here's our day, and the other 364, you don't have to be nice to your mom.
Yeah, good points. Okay. All right. Well, when we talk about our priorities in December, let's put Earth Day in there and see where it lands. So, I'm sorry, Jay, I sort of interrupted you. Were there any other aspects of the meeting you wanted to talk about?
No, anything else you remember?
Just looking at my notes. I was struck by the fact that they actually do brochures that they send out to the entire town. And so it's like 3,000 households or something, and they get the stuff printed and send it out to everybody. So I would think Portola Valley would have a budget that would allow for that. And I'm just maybe we haven't been thinking along those lines, but that seems like it could be an interesting thing to do once or twice a year on important topics.
What were the topics they sent out about?
I'm not sure which ones made it out on in the flyers. I mean, the topics they're looking at are the pesticide elimination, water conservation, trying to create wildlife corridors by removal of fencing. There's a backyard habitat award that they, for people who plant things for pollinators and, monarch butterflies, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not sure which of those have been the focus of brochures, but I was just struck by the fact that, sending out a really nicely made brochure in the mail is a vehicle that we haven't in the recent past done, and it could be something that we consider. So,
And I like the fencing thing they talked about. I haven't heard anybody talk about that here,
Well,
but I think that's a really, I'm
It's
sure
on
people-
conservation.
yeah,
It's in the conservation department, that whole
Yeah.
area. We have backyard, whatever award as well.
Yes,
But
they will.
but I've never heard anything from the town about fencing and what they want me to do and all that stuff. And it doesn't seem to be, because when we moved in, we put in a fence, and I looked all over for what the town wanted and didn't find anything other than the regular, ordinances and zoning. And so we ended up putting one in that's 6 feet away from the neighbor's fence. So there's a corridor for deer to go through. But I hadn't heard anything about that in Portola Valley. I like that they were doing it in Woodside.
one thing they said was that their current sustainability committee has about 10 people involved, and they're going to split that into 2 committees. One is going to be climate and sustainability, and the second one would be environmental and conservation. So they're taking that to the town council to see if they could split it into 2 groups. All righty, next up is the public service announcements. This is my month to write something, and I'm working on it. I haven't written it yet. I thought the exchange on PV Forum around electrification and the REACH codes was certainly a good topic. So I strategized a bit with Jeff Alfs today on the phone about what might go into that, and I would have to say that the ideas we considered were along the lines of information, better calculations of how heat pumps really work, and whether they're net benefit for the environment or not. Will the grid collapse if it becomes more and more based on renewables, which there are plenty of studies from National Renewable Energy Lab, et cetera. And I could write about that, but then this discussion around peer pressure and how you influence behavior makes me pause and wonder if.
I'll loan you the book.
Yeah, right. Well, I've got the basic idea, so I just have to reflect on it in terms of,
Start with a case study. Start with a little anecdote of somebody who has electrified their property, their
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Well, I'm working toward that myself, and so I'm wondering if and I'm sort of stepping into it. It's embarrassing actually to have not done more before now. So that's an interesting thing. The activation energy problem, and just now I'm retired, so now I have time.
But that's a wonderful thing to talk about.
I think so. Yeah, I think it is to sort of like confessions of a environmentally oriented person who hasn't done much of anything yet.
Peer pressure.
And it's starting to, yeah. So I just replaced every light bulb in the entire house with LED lights. So every single one. So that was satisfying.
That would be nice. I mean, your personal story and a
Yeah.
little humor, people would like that.
Yeah. So I think that might be more, I'm this.
Yeah, and
conversation nice.
sprinkle in a few facts about the electrification issues.
Oh, no
and-
facts, no facts.
No, we do need to sprinkle them in with the story, with the emotion. The grid's
Yeah.
not gonna collapse because not that many people are gonna do it that fast, whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna take 50
You
years.
want to get the pollutants out of your home. That's one of your motivations, just sprinkle in there what your thoughts are.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I'm gonna try to do something much more personal, confessional, personal, and see what that results in.
I think it'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Okay, so then the next item on the agenda is any questions? Okay, yeah. So the safety element, they're not, I mean, we met with people, we met with Melvin and I guess Melvin and Brandy about the safety element previously, and they shared with us what they had written. And my memory of that is that we thought it was pretty inclusive. The climate resilience piece of that, climate resilience and adaptation piece that they wrote was pretty inclusive and
Well, I went through the new one. I assume it changed a little
Yeah.
bit, not by
Okay.
much.
so
And
let me
my
just-
big question is maybe it's a lack of understanding of what a safety element actually is. And I started to read the document from the beginning to get a better understanding, and I just got bogged down. But
Mhm.
the question for me is the safety element, is it only about what they're viewing as urgent, immediate kind of potential problems, like a wildfire? How do we prepare the town for a wildfire, for a flood, for a adverse weather event, for these sorts of specific kind of more immediate things, versus what we as a sustainability committee realize is the existential threat to our own existence, the climate crisis, which we absolutely have got to start today doing something about. So to me, that's an enormous safety element issue, is dealing with this looming crisis that's already upon us. It already may be too late, but let's not be too negative, but we absolutely have to do something. So I didn't perceive, again, as I reread this thing, that it really had much information. We had one little section devoted to programs for sustainability or for dealing with greenhouse gas, and then they had 10 programs dealing with more immediate sustainable climate problems. So that was my issue. I mean, I read through it and I actually edited the whole section because I was so irritated with the language. So I don't even know if that I'll submit that information to the town, but so that's kind of my big question, is how can we put more in there about doing something about greenhouse gas emissions? I feel like there needs to be more specifics in there.
Yeah, as I recall, the climate resilience and adaptation piece is more not so much around major major events like wildfire, earthquake, etc., but it is more of those sort of longer term. How does the community prepare for changes that will happen? That's not the same. That's not what you're saying. You're saying our safety, in a major way, is at risk because of climate change, and I think that's true. I don't know whether that message is going to make it into this kind of document because it's so contentious.
I kind of have the opposite input, I guess. I thought that those things don't really belong in the safety element. I mean, we have a separate sustainability element that's part of our general plan, and I didn't really understand why the things about water conservation and greenhouse gases were in the safety element itself.
Whether
I
it's.
think it's a
redu-
requirement.
It's not a requirement. Well, we're trying to collect some questions that we want to
Yeah, yeah,
ask them, right?
Correct.
So
No, my understanding, it is a requirement. If you start reading the safety element from the very beginning, they talk about the fact that now you're required to include a climate change adaptation or resilience section.
I'm not questioning the entire section, just some of the specific items or
Programs.
policies that were specifically the ones that were about water conservation and greenhouse gas reduction. I didn't think would be appropriate for a safety element.
Hmm,
I don't think those impact safety per se, and we do have a sustainability element, so they belong in there.
Well, then that's the question for them, because likewise, I'm not understanding the purpose of this, what should be included in a safety element. And clearly you also have that question,
right.
so.
I think we have a similar question. Yeah, as you're saying, it's a similar question, and then it, I guess, either goes one way or the other way.
Right, exactly, yeah.
okay, that's a good one. So we will, if you could capture that in the minutes, Rebecca, we will then feed that into the safety element process before December 2nd, I think, is when these questions are due. I can do that. And then are there other questions people had coming out from reading that?
I noted a few. Maybe could I go just list out the ones that I had noted? My
Sure.
wife isn't feeling well, and I kind of am going to have to step away, work on bedtime. So I guess what I had noted down. So there were some of the comments about like the coast side and stuff seemed to be about general San Mateo topography and not specific to Portola Valley. And so I was wondering if those should be there or not. A bunch of the earlier policies I thought were fairly vague. Let me relocate 1 second. Yeah, I'm just looking at it again real quick. Yeah, I guess. Okay, collaborate. Like, ensure infrastructure can accommodate changing conditions and effects associated with climate change. Collaborate with local and regional agencies on hazard mitigation and emergency management projects and programs. I don't know. I guess maybe the question is like, do we need to try to make the policies more specific and like what exactly is supposed to happen, or are they supposed to be more overarching?
I think they're supposed to be kind of open-ended and overarching.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
what
agree that
understood.
I felt that some of them were just sort of rather vague.
Yeah. And then some of the policies in this section didn't seem specifically related to climate change. Like I'm looking at, for example, 78, which is about the CERT Community Emergency Response Team program. Continue to promote the Community Emergency Response Team program to strengthen community cohesion and emergency preparedness through community engagement efforts. I guess I really don't understand why something like that is in this section. It doesn't seem to be about climate change.
That was in the that's in the climate adaptation and resilience section.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would agree. That seems very strange.
And then policy 82 is talking about San Francisco Creek. And I guess I'm not sure why that creek specifically is of interest and called out. I think it's more of a San Mateo thing than a Portola Valley thing, maybe.
Well, that's our watershed. Does it have some, I'm not looking at the document, Does it have something to do with the watershed?
It was about
Um,
runoff, not even runoff, it was wastewater going into the creek. I had a question about that as well, is what wastewater is going into the creek? So that was a little weird because that didn't have anything to do with climate change, wastewater. I don't know if they meant runoff
mhm.
or they meant, when it rains, if it were to rain really, really hard,
They talking
that
about,
sort of problem flooding, but
talking about
Yeah.
septic tanks. That's how I read it.
talking about what?
Septic tanks. That's the only thing I can think of.
Is it okay if I add something? This
The
is
82
Brandy.
is, okay.
Sure,
So
Brandy.
when the reason San Francisco Creek is in there is because when our stormwater runoff feeds into it, and when there's a storm event and there's high or a king tide, there becomes an issue when we have too much runoff going. It results in flooding in East Palo Alto. So that's the reason it's mentioned, is to manage it, because it's a climate change impact because of those converging things that happen.
Okay, so wastewater is definitely the wrong word there. They continue to identify opportunities to reduce downstream flooding from town wastewater. So definitely the wrong word.
Stormwater, yeah.
Stormwater.
And does that, I guess I still will wonder, why is it specifically that creek called out versus our other creeks?
That one goes all the way down to the bay.
Okay. I guess I already said the point about the water conservation and greenhouse gas reduction. And those were two specific policies. I don't have the numbers right now, but why are those actually in the safety element? And then where was this one? Like policy 84, develop a climate adaptation plan for the town. I guess I wonder why that's a separate thing. Why doesn't that, why don't we just adapt the other plans to accommodate climate change? Which, I mean, I think there's an attempt to do that. So why is there a goal of having a separate climate adaptation plan?
Really good point. It ought to be integrated into all the other plans.
And I think there is, like in the rest of the safety element, there's having, well, yeah, I think some handling some of the effects of climate change and increased heat and stuff. Okay, those were the ones I had noted. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Ronnie. Any other questions for town staff and the external consultants? All right, well, that's a good set. All right, next up, update on the new member search. So I did have a conversation with the person who attended last time, Elizabeth Gilbrand, I think. And Elizabeth was interested, but once she witnessed the conflagration on PV Forum over the reach codes, which happened like the day before I was to speak to her, she said, "I don't think so." She backed out of it. She said, no, I don't want to step into this kind of contentious stuff. So she is not a candidate any longer.
That's the fun of it.
That's the fun of it. That's right. Spoken like somebody who's been willing to have fun with it for 14 years, right?
You don't know too many people who call someone an asshole at a meeting and then the next day it's in the paper.
Yeah, that sounds fun. So we still are looking for one member. We have 6 people among us, and we really would benefit from having a 7th. So I don't know. We don't need to have a conversation about it now, but just please keep thinking about it. And if you notice somebody or
Hey, what about as your your public service announcement? putting a little kicker in there saying something about the committee and you're on and how
Sure.
we need, I mean, people read the forum because it's exciting at times.
Yeah, sure, sure. That sounds.
It's got a good audience.
I will put that in there. All right, we do have the committee priorities on the list just so that we can talk about them at any meeting. We also have, next on the agenda was preparing inputs for the 2023 committee workshop regarding major town council projects. I suggested that we might defer that until December and do that immediately following our discussion of priorities. And then finally, there's an item on here, which is WELO, but we're not going to do any more on that for another month or two. So that is the old business. There is new business. There's one item that I would like to bring up. I was approached by Jennifer Hammer, who is now, I guess is she the head of the Wildfire Preparedness Committee? Yeah.
Yes.
So she is now the head of that committee, and that committee is holding a big event, which happens to be on Earth Day. So it's interesting timing. I'm not sure they did that on purpose or what, but they're going to be, let me just get my notes. They're going to have a big event, which includes, shoot, let me find where are my notes. Oh yeah, it's going to be a fair and lectures. It's going to be on Earth Day. It's going to be at the schoolhouse, the town center, and there'll be vendors representing all sorts of stuff related to fire preparedness, and so and I think EPC will be there. It's going to be a big deal, sort of like a, even I guess bigger on their part than even the town picnic and what they do there. So it's a significant event. It's from 10 to 2 on the 22nd of April. Jennifer wanted to know whether we sustainability would want to have a table there and draw the link between climate change and the severity of fires in some way, which seems like a reasonable thing to do, but I don't know whether we have bandwidth and people want to do that. There's plenty of warning since it's not until April. So let's just talk about it. If we wanted to find somebody to give a really compelling lecture about the relationship between climate change and drought and fire, they might consider that as one of the lectures. So there could be, and I think they're going to have 3 lectures over the course of that 2-hour time period. The lectures are being organized by MJ. I don't know her last name, but
Lee.
MJ Lee.
Really good.
So Jennifer Hammer is not working on the lectures. We'd have to approach MJ if we had a concept for a really good lecture of that type, but it's possible we could have one of the 3 lectures be related to climate change and wildfire. We could do that. We could have a table and represent our own work related to greenhouse gas emissions and make that connection with wildfire. So I'd just open it up for discussion now about how we might want to be involved in that event.
Well, I would be more open to doing it with them with the little table than I would to be organizing an Earth Fair for future reference.
Yeah.
And they had really great attendance at their wildfire fair last year. It was very impressive, extremely impressive.
Those women really can get it done.
Yeah.
Okay, well then
Really, they had like 15 vendors. They had just tons of stuff, displays and things. It was really well done.
So it sounds like if other people agree, the answer is yes. We would have a table there, and then we can worry about what's what's at the table a little bit later. We don't have to do that right at the moment. I think we just need to tell her, yes, we're in if that's the case.
But I would say that we need to really limit it to just maybe 2 or 3 main concepts that we want to get across, kind of drought and, greenhouse gas, not just not overwhelm people with all sorts of sustainability stuff,
Yeah,
but really
yeah.
limit it to things related to wildfire, I guess, climate
Yeah.
change,
Yeah.
And
So
by
that's
then,
what-
know whether or not we're going to be under some mandatory water conservation measures by April. You'll know.
Mhm.
Question?
Yeah,
With the new sustainability department, school at Stanford, the Doer,
yeah.
they are giving lots of talks.
Mhm.
I get, things coming through all the time about talks on different subjects. Does anybody have an in with anybody there? I think, somebody from there would be terrific. I mean, this is going to be a world-class program.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know the new dean really well, so.
So yeah, find,
Um,
I think a speaker from there would be just wonderful.
Okay, yeah, I'll just ask him if, yeah, I mean, the Woods Institute or one of those organizations would, probably the Woods Institute, but that's now part of the School of Sustainability. So sure, I can reach out to him and see if I may actually reach out to somebody else at the Woods Institute, but yes.
I mean, because, wildfires are at the top of everybody's list around here.
Mhm.
And the drought and water conservation and climate change. I mean, it's a subject that we could get a lot of points for. I mean,
Yep,
a lot of, what do I say? Not points, that's the bad analogy, but exposure. We might recruit a lot of people from, have presenting something like that, having our stamp of approval on it. We might
yep.
harvest a lot of people who might want to serve on this committee.
Yeah, okay, that's great. No, that's a really good idea, Lovey. I will reach out to somebody at Stanford and see if we can figure out if there's a talk that could be given.
But I would definitely recommend that we come up with some kind of neat idea of not a huge expensive giveaway, but some reason for people, to come to our booth and
Mhm.
play a game or push a button or whatever, just something to generate a little bit of excitement, especially for kids, for
Hand out
example.
matches, I mean, just. No, just kidding. That's a dumb idea.
Yes.
Okay. So.
Some gimmick.
Lovey thinks it's funny. Oh, okay. All right.
Bedtime.
Yeah, okay, so, but we have time, I think we have time to plan this, but I think we're saying we're in for a table and we're gonna see whether there might be we could help or orchestrate there being some lecture on the topic that could be something MJ would want to have as part of their lecture series. Okay. All righty, I think we are getting down to the end. I think we're at the point of asking whether there are any topics for our next meeting that aren't already,
Can I ask, sorry, one question?
sure.
For the safety element, I think I just checked, I think we're supposed to submit our questions to them by December 2nd.
True.
And you mentioned, asking Rebecca to add it to the notes, but of course that's before our next meeting. So I just don't know if we need a.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
So that we can submit the questions. Will you do that or?
I was hoping, Rebecca, if you often send me the minutes pretty quickly, so if you send them
Yeah.
to me, like, in the next few days, then I will extract from that the questions related to the safety element and send those on for our committee, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Ronnie, if you have yours written out, I would suggest you just email them to either me or Scott. If it goes to me, I can add them to the more than I mean, I took notes, but if you have more specific information. Otherwise, I took notes on your.
Okay. I just had like bullet point notes, so if you kind of took notes on what I said, that's probably just as good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think I caught most of them, yeah, or, yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, I could, if you write it up, I can look at it if that's, as long as that's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
that's, I can,
Sure,
yeah.
no, that'd be great.
1, 2, 3.
Check it
It's
out.
just 3 of
Right.
us.
Check it out and then we can send it in. So. and,
Okay.
yeah, we've got time, so. Okay, any other, any topics for the next meeting that isn't sort of suggested already in what we've discussed today? No? All right, so.
Well, I would say, do we know do we have a December PSA? Or is that you're November?
No,
Do we
mine
have
is November, but, so yeah, there is a December one, and I can't recall whose it is.
Because
But
I think it would be. Because I think it's still another greenhouse gas, right?
I think
On
so.
climate change, I think. So I still feel that we kind of, depending on how you write yours and how many little facts you add to your personal story, I still feel that we need to respond to some of the misinformation and the misinformation that was coming across the PV forum about, taking down the grid if everybody goes electric, and having to change out your panel, whatever. I mean, I think that we do need to respond to some of this with some factual information, even if we don't use it as a PSA, if we just whatever. But I think it's a repetitive thing. The more time people hear correct information, it will start to drown out the nuts. So
Yeah.
whoever's supposed to be writing it, I think at some point somebody needs to write up some of those facts and gather and research those facts. So if in the process of you're working on your things, you have facts that you've gathered that you're not going to use, then I think we should still kind of put them together in some type of little FAQ
Yeah.
to
That
respond.
sounds
So-
right. So okay, so December would have been Walt, actually.
Oh, okay.
So if we wanted to just sort of move things forward, Ronnie, I think it would be your chance to do one in December. Is that?
that would be like mid-December, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty engaged in that discussion. I guess I had been thinking about doing something on, I don't know, tech devices and stuff
Well,
like
that's
that.
fine too. I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas. Somebody could do January for the responses or whatever, but.
Yeah. Okay, why don't we, let me work on what I was gonna write, and then there'll be certain things I will talk about and other things I won't, and that'll sort of help define what we might do in some future ones. All right, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Lovey. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
we are now here.
Aye.
Here's my finished garage, everybody.
Cool. Wait, you said your finished garage?
Well, completed, not finished,
Completed.
finished. But
Yeah,
this is
nice.
what I sit in my garage for every meeting, and you guys have been watching this project for months.
Yeah.
It's all reclaimed redwood. That's old fencing.
Oh, cool.
Uh-huh.
Cool. And
Anyway.
show us your smart wall again. Where's that?
This is,
Ooh, yes.
here's the panel.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And then this goes out the door to a 100-watt solar panel.
Gotcha.
And so with this, I use this to keep, like, these are my earbuds. I keep charge here, and then batteries for power tools, things like that, lanterns. I just charge that here. But before we had solar and power walls, I'd use this to back up the refrigerator during an outage, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This
And
is
what
the
kind
battery.
of, is that a Tesla Powerwall? Remind me.
No, the power walls are outside. This is the Goal Zero. This is the
Oh.
older model of the same.
Oh, I'm
things
sorry, I'm
that
looking at the span. I guess it's the span.
Yeah.
Span is your smart circuit breaker board. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
it's fantastic.
All right. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Have a nice
Good night.
Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Yes,
you too.
Bye.
bye-bye.